Welcome to Love Light with Dr. Jean Marie Farish. Today, we'll show you how to use the spirit of love and self-worth to improve the connections with everyone else in your life. This program is your weekly gift, and it will keep on giving. You'll see. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jean Marie Farish.
Greetings and a hearty welcome, everyone. I hope you're all faring well. I'm Dr. Jean Marie, your Love Light host, coming to you from the Voice America Empowerment Channel, shining love light into your hearts and homes to inspire you to create a life you love. And many thanks to our listeners worldwide who tune in live and on demand. We have a great show today. Raise your frequency, transform your life with Selina Maitreya. Our thoughts and feelings reflect our vibrational frequency. It is noted by the masters that we're either in love or fear, love being the highest while fear the lowest. Nonetheless, how we vibrate impacts our mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. According to Rajamari Sharma Tonka in the article published in Life and More, know what is your vibrational frequency and how you can raise it. Your vibrational frequency depends on how you feel during most of the day. It's a measure of your consciousness level and describes the dominant thoughts, moves, and values in your mind, which in turn is your spiritual state. And spiritual scientists have categorized various kinds of feelings according to their frequency. Different ideas, thoughts, emotions have specific vibrational frequency. For example, peace, joy, love, acceptance, neutrality, anger, grief, guilt, and shame. And our amazing guest, Selina Maitreya, she will give us tools and equip us with ways to raise our frequency, to put us on the path to self-empowerment and create the life we love. Selina is a teacher of practical spirituality, transformational agent, lecturer, author of her recently published book, Raise Your Frequency, Transform Your Life, How to Respond with Love to Life's Difficulties. Selina empowers her students, showing them how to reactivate and actualize their intuitive body, their high energy field in daily life naturally, and how to respond to chaos that lands in their life from frequencies of peace, chaos, kindness, compassion, tolerance, understanding, wisdom, and grace. It raises us to the vibration of love. So now I am delighted to welcome our amazing guest today, Selina Maitreya, on our show, Raise Your Frequency, Transform Your Life. Welcome, Selina, to Love Life.
Well, thanks, Jean. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
And thanks so much for being on this empowering episode. And I know your book will be a tremendous gift for people to access wisdom, insight, and knowledge about transforming our vibrations to a higher frequency. So, Selina, can you share with us a little bit about yourself and how you came into practical spirituality?
Well, thanks, Jean. My name, Selina Maitreya, was given to me when I was 16 years old, and I'm 69. So I've been on a spiritual path for most of my life. When I was in my late 30s, early 40s, I met my current teacher, who I've been with for over 25 years. And it was through her teachings that I learned how to embody spiritual values. Instead of just reading about them in books or going to workshops, I actually started to utilize my values and bring them into my life as a response to the difficulties that might arise. So it's been quite a journey.
And thank you for sharing that. And I know you really walk the walk and you really incorporate what you teach in your daily life. So, Selina, let's talk a little bit about frequency. Can you share or highlight the scientific data or any studies that measure frequency?
Yeah, well, I don't really work with science as much as I work with experience. But science, however, tells us that we have frequency in our body. The studies of EKGs and EEGs, the technology that measures the frequency in our brain and the frequency in our heart, are very clear that we are frequency inhabited beings, if you will. At the end of people's lives, some people are on a monitor, and when the monitor flatlines, they're proclaimed dead. And that means there's no energy, there's no more frequency in their body. So we know through those measurements that frequency exists. And what I teach people is how to actually use the frequencies to alert us as to when we're in low frequency. And then I provide practices in the book and in my teachings to help people to learn how they can consciously be aware of what their frequencies are and how to respond to them to shift them into higher vibration.
I love that. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about how to really identify our present frequency for our listeners out there and how the different frequencies actually impact us, if you can even give practical examples.
Well, we've got to go a little further back. So let's start with who we actually are. Many times, most people go through their lives referring to themselves as me or I, a one-dimensional being. And we think of ourselves as this one-dimensional being as we walk through our lives. But we're actually multi-dimensional beings. We have a physical body, which is one dimension. We have a physical brain. We have an emotional body. We have a personality. We have a history in this body. So right there's 5 different aspects within us that are moving and being activated at any time. Then we also have, and I'm going to make this very simple, we have 2 major energy systems within us. One is the low frequency of the egoic pain, and the other is our high frequency of the energy of love, which I would share with you, Jean, and our audience, is the only frequency that we all contain that is similar, that energy of love, the oneness within us. So we have these different dimensions working at different times. And when we remember that we have choice as to which piece of our being we want to activate, we then can do that. So the first step is moving from seeing yourself, and I'm talking to everyone listening now, all you guys out there, start seeing yourself as a multi-dimensional being, not a one-dimensional being. That's the first step.
That's really important. And I really appreciate you talking about the different dimensions of our being. And how do we, with all these different aspects of ourselves, how do we bring this all together? And how do we notice when we're really out of alignment?
Good questions, Jean. Well, we need to be able to have the capacity and the choice and the interest in noticing where we are at any point during the day. And this is a process that people can easily learn. It's called witnessing as you be. And it means that you are aware of your state. You don't just walk through the world blindly, allowing whatever happens to change your way of being or to change your state. You're aware all the time. And that's the first thing we need to become conscious of. And I could share a very simple practice if you'd like, Jean. I'm not going to take anyone through it, but I can tell people how a very simple practice so that they can start witnessing as they be if you'd like. Shall I just share that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest for those of you who are listening and eager to learn how to watch your state, in the morning when you get up, check your calendar and put on your phone or your watch, whatever is your alert system throughout the day, your alarm. Put on it 3 times when you're not in the middle of an activity where you can stop literally for 1 minute because that's all you're going to need to do. So you set those 3 times, perhaps late morning, early afternoon, right before you go to bed. And when that alert comes on later in the day, all you're doing is stopping and checking in. You're checking in the multidimensionality of who you are. Where is your brain? Is it racing or is it at peace? how is your emotional body? Is it neutral or is it anxious? Is it excited? Just checking in, just noticing, just observing. Same thing with your physicality. How is your body feeling? So you're checking in with all of those areas. And then you go back to your day. And when you do this 3 times a day for several weeks, you will very easily move into the ability to do this hourly. So then you just set your alerts hourly, and you go through your day, once again, noticing every time your alarm goes off. And then within a month, you're going to be walking through your life, noticing your state. So as you be, you'll be able to notice. And that's the first step to take.
Selina, I really love that practice, witnessing as you be, because it enables us to be alert and more aware of ourselves, how we are being with ourselves during the course of the day, and of course at those times that you're having us clock in to check in with ourselves, because so often we're caught up in the busyness of life and we don't really attend to ourselves, our physicality, our sense of how I'm feeling or my emotions. So this really helps us check in with ourselves. A great practical exercise.
Well, yes, and it does that not so that we can change anything, but just so that we're in the habit of noticing. This is how we get in the habit of noticing. And once we're able to notice, then when we're walking through the day and we feel out of alignment with something is off, it just feels off, you can just go to quiet and within seconds just do the scan again and notice what aspect of your being is like maybe your emotional state is agitated, and then you know you're in low frequency. If you're irritated, you're in low frequency. So right now, most people that are listening, you guys out there, you're just equating your emotions and your thinking mind with your state. But what I'm asking you to do is when you feel your emotions are dysregulated or when your mind is full of thoughts and it's racing, know that you're in low frequency and you need to shift it into high frequency. So anytime we're in any state other than peace and calm and neutrality or excitement and joy, we're most likely in low frequency, and that's the time to shift it.
What I really like about this practice is that as we become more the watcher or observer of ourselves and notice how we are being, or really in tune to whether we're in a frequency, a higher frequency, a lower frequency, it really enables us to really look at our lives, do a little gentle reflection, and look at ways to really uplift ourselves and change our vibration, which you're going to talk a little bit more about. And I think another aspect of this practice is that when we make it a daily practice, it becomes more natural, and it's not the work or focus that's initially required. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that's absolutely accurate. When we do anything new, if I were to go to the gym and I wanted to work on my quads and I did leg exercises, it would be awkward. In fact, I remember, Jean, when I started yoga 25 years ago, and I couldn't wait because everyone was talking about how exciting and relaxing it was. I thought it was the most awkward thing in the world. My body wouldn't move the right way. I couldn't even think about bringing my breath in because it was so new to me. But once we get started on anything, yoga, muscle, stuff at the gym, or consciousness raising, which is what we're talking about here, because this is a practice that makes us more conscious. And when we're more conscious, we're activating the high frequency. And as we live in a physical world, the physical world says that what you put your attention on grows. If I want to build that quad, I have to go to the gym. If I want to get better at yoga, I have to do it over and over. Well, if we want to become conscious, we need to notice what our state is. And that's the beauty of this practice, is that we become more conscious. That muscle of consciousness grows and becomes more prevalent in our daily life. We're no longer just wandering through the world.
Yes, that's very encouraging, because when we talk about frequency, we are talking about our consciousness, right? And this is all
Well,
about raising our consciousness as well, right?
Well, high frequency is certainly our consciousness. Low frequency is the energy of fear. But we are talking about being able to notice how we are throughout the day and shifting from low frequency into high, which is, I think, such an amazing gift. This is why I'm so excited about this work, because most people, Jean, are walking through the world not thinking they have any agency over what they're experiencing. And we have great agency, more than most people think. And that's why it's important to share with people, when we think it's our thoughts or our emotions, it's actually the frequency we're holding. Because what science does tell us, Jean, is that the brain does not create anew. What the brain does is recognizes that which it knows and creates structure around it. And what the brain recognizes is what the EKGs and the EEGs measure. The brain recognizes frequency. So when we have low frequency in our system, the brain recognizes that and creates structure, which are thoughts and emotions. So what we're actually doing is we're changing the information that the brain is creating our emotions and our thoughts around, which is fascinating. So if we can get onto that end of the equation, it's much easier to change our frequency than it is to change the thoughts and emotions that the brain has already created. So that's why we work with frequencies, because we're working with the information that the brain is creating those thoughts and emotions around.
Selena, that's an excellent description, and I'm sure it brings a lot of awareness to our listeners, because we're always creating, we're always thinking, we're always feeling. And this brings me to our conversation about the power of creation and how, where we put our energy on is what we attract and create. Can you talk a little bit more about that, our power of creation?
Yes. Absolutely, because Spirit shared with me so many years ago that we are our attention, and what we put our attention on grows in the third dimensional world. It can't not. You have plants, and you take care of plants, and you water them, and you feed them, and they're going to grow. And you have, it's the same thing with our emotions and our thoughts. When we're in high frequency, when we're cultivating quiet and we're connecting to the internal, or we're walking in the physical world and we're at peace, then our thoughts and our emotions will reflect that. When we're like today, for instance, I woke up and I don't know what's going on in the world, but the energy was so within me, was so not chaotic, but it wasn't peaceful. And that's not the way I usually wake up. And I noticed that. And so I had to look at that, and I actively took myself through practices to take my energy down a couple of notches. So we get to choose, and that's where the creation is in the choice of how we choose to move through the world. So it's being aware, it's noticing, and then it's taking steps and practices that I'm sure we'll be talking about that we can use to shift our frequency when we know it, as I did this morning, that I was out of alignment.
I'm glad that you indicated that, because we are human beings in the world, and we're affected by information that we receive, or unexpected things that happen in our lives, and even media influences. And we have to be aware of how we are. And I love what you said, because for myself as well, perhaps you're at that lower frequency, but when you identify that, like, what's going on with me, let me shift. And we're going to talk about ways to shift and transform, because being in the world, we what can we say? We are affected by what's happening around us.
And what we are is affected by the... Sorry, Jean, I did not mean to overtalk. What I wanted to just point out is all the things you were talking about that you say we're affected by are actually vibration, because words carry vibration, and tone in which people speak carries vibration. I could say, "What were you thinking?" And I'm curious, I'm open, I'm interested. Or I could say, "What were you thinking?" Same words, different tone. So that tone is a vibration. Words themselves carry frequency. So when you talk about media and what we're reading and what we're hearing, that's all frequency. And so what happens is we take in all of that frequency unless we choose to cultivate what frequency we listen to. We also can cultivate the frequency we hold. We can choose the people we want to be around based on the frequency that they're in. So we all know the people in our world who are always wrapped up in drama. And as spiritual people, sometimes we don't want to be in that energy. So that's what I mean, that we have choice in terms of choosing what kind of frequency we take in, which is what I think you were talking about when you spoke about all of the messaging that's out there. So I always take it down to what it actually is that we can choose to change, and it's always frequency. So frequency is what we are always working with.
That's a beautiful description, because what you're saying, everything is frequency.
Everything.
Our thoughts, the energy of people around us, everything, the influences that we, access throughout the course of the day, what we tune into, everything is frequency. And I love what you're saying about looking at the world and everything on that level of frequency.
Well, Jean, I want to share a very quick remembrance. I would ask everybody listening to just go back with me for a moment and remember that when we were born as infants and we came into this world, we didn't have the capacity in the early days for language. So what did we do when we needed something, when we were wet or we were uncomfortable or we were hungry? We cried. So two very important pieces of information here. Frequency was our very first language because a cry is a vibration. And when did we cry? When we were in need, when we were in fear. So the aspect of using vibration when we were in fear goes way back to when we were infants. So we have always had vibration has been our language way before we were ever able to speak any of the language that are now our cultural way of communicating with one another. We always had frequency as our language.
Well, that's profound, Selina. And thank you for bringing up that example because it really brings it home to all of us, I'm sure, in terms of, the crying, the need, the need for love, the need for attention, and it's all frequency, no matter how it's reflected in our being.
Absolutely. And we were able to also feel the frequency of other people. That's all we had at that point, but we forgot. And when language came along and when we started to be conditioned by our families and society, we put that all aside. So we're bringing back something that has always been within us and something that has been guiding our life, whether we chose to have agency over it or not. We're all, every single day, influenced by frequency.
Thank you for sharing that. On my shows, we talk a lot about love and worthiness. Can you share a bit about the vibration of love, the energy involved with that? And also, my follow-up question is that there are many people out there, I know we say shift our frequency from fear to love, and perhaps for many out there, if you have not, perhaps there's not a real point of reference for love, or maybe love is more transactional and not unconditional as opposed to unconditional love. Can you talk about that the aspects of love if one does not really know or feel it?
Well, love is a vibration.
How we can shift.
Yes, love is a vibration. So it's psychology and our conditioning in society that defines love in unconditional or conditional love. And love is an energy. It's an experience. It's a sensing. It's a knowing. When you stand at the ocean and you just are in a place where you're looking out into the water and you're just at peace, that's an experience of love. When you look into your children's eyes or your pet's eyes and you experience a moment with them, that's love. When you're breathing in the air and you're just feeling such joy from just smelling the gorgeous air on a spring morning, that's love. So love is an energy. It's a frequency that is within us. We are born with that frequency within us. That is the soul level, which is called oneness by a lot of people. Other people call it the God energy. But it is the high frequency that we're referring to. And we talk about each of us contain frequency. It's low frequency of the pain and high frequency of the oneness. And while, Jean, we all have different histories in this world, different bodies, different experiences, we all have the same energy of love. And it's within us and waiting to be activated. So if someone feels they don't have the experience of love, which is an unusual situation, they can simply sit down and remember something they are grateful for. And everybody has something they are grateful for. And when we actually feel what we are grateful for in our body, we visualize it in our brain, in our imagination, but we feel it in our body. That's the energy of love, because gratitude is an expression of that energy. You know, the Kabbalists talk about the fact that God has 72 different names, and each name is a different vibration, a different energy that represents the God energy, a different aspect of God. Well, we can experience that in so many ways. And one of the ways we experience love is through gratitude.
I love that. And there are many out there who are, have issues with receiving. And you're going to take us through an exercise on being open to receive. So perhaps we can, maybe you can share a little bit more about that exercise and share with listeners how to prepare for this exercise of meditation.
Well, the practice open to receive is a beautiful practice that brings us, I don't want to give it away, but it's a practice that enables us to open up and receive the energy of love that's within us. And we receive that in this practice. So for people who haven't had that experience, this might be very profound, or they may experience nothing until they do it several times. Everybody has a different experience, but most people get it on the first or second try because it's pretty profound. So what we're doing is tapping into the energy of love that's within each person who's listening, and they're able to experience the profound nature of the love that's within them.
Okay, so are you going to take us through the exercise?
Sure. Yep.
Okay,
if you'd like,
well,
would you like me to? Okay. So what I would invite everyone to do is to just get very comfortable in a chair or lie down. It matters not, whatever way is most comfortable. And invoke what I call the breath of life, which is breathing in and out through the nose with the mouth closed. And you're breathing low, long, slow, deep, and easeful. In and out with the eyes closed if you're comfortable doing so. And as you breathe the breath of life, just allow the body to get very, very comfortable in your chair or wherever you're lying down. Breathing in and breathing out very easily and very comfortably. And as the breath comes in and out, continue with the breath, but bring your attention to your imagination and see yourself standing in front of a body of water. You're standing in front of the ocean on a gorgeous sunny day. You're blissfully alone, totally safe. And as you breathe in the air, you breathe in the salty, briny ocean air. And as you exhale, you are feeling so comfortable and at ease. You look out into the water and you notice that it's a very calm day. The waves are coming in slowly and going out slowly as well. And you're so comfortable and grateful to be where you are. As you stand upon the shore, you realize your feet are bare and you wriggle your toes in the warm sand beneath your feet, continuing to open and feel so at ease. And as you do so, you hear the gulls in the distance. And they're making quite a racket, and you turn slowly to see what all the noise is about. And you see somebody walking toward you on the beach. And you're calm and you're curious. And as this person is walking to you, you notice as they get closer that this is someone who has given you unconditional love, whether it's a parent or a friend, a sister, a teacher, a grandparent. Who was the person that gave you unconditional love? Because this is who is now standing in front of you. And as they stand in front of you, you look into each other's eyes and you smile. You are so happy to see them. Your heart opens fully as you gaze into their eyes and they gaze into yours. And as they look at you, this being who loves you so, you are seen, you are known, and you are loved. Feel that now pouring into your body. Receive that love. They open their arms and you fall into them, resting your head upon their chest, where you don't just hear, but you become their heartbeat. They close their arms gently around you, and you are loved. You are loved. Mm. And now they release their arms. They release their arms. You lift your head from their chest and step back. You look into each other's eyes, and without any words being said, you thank each other for this gorgeous moment. They step back. They turn to the left, and they walk down into the ether. And you return to your body. You return through the breath of life to the room and back into our call. And we are complete.
Well, this is a beautiful meditation, a lot of visualization. It opens our senses, opens our heart. So we do invite listeners to listen back on demand and really do this practice. You can do it daily, right, Selina, to really lift you up, open yourself to love, because I think that's one of the things that we really are striving to do, returning to love. And this meditation will help us do that.
Well, this is you're absolutely right, Jean. This is a beautiful meditation. It's all about vibration, because what we're doing is we're bringing in a being who was the person who gave us the most unconditional love. And we're allowing ourselves to be filled with that. And what happens in this meditation is the energy of love within us, the oneness within us, is activated. And so what we're experiencing is an opening of the energy of love within us. And this, along with the practice of active gratitude, of noticing when your energies need to be shifted, and sitting down and choosing to remember what you're absolutely grateful for and bringing it into your body and feeling it, that will shift our energy. This practice shifts our energy. And then in the book, there are many other practices that are shared that are very quick and easy to use, including breath exercises that happen in a second that can shift our energy within minutes. So there's lots of different ways. This is a beautiful practice that really activates the energy of love within us.
Yes, and I think that when we engage in a daily practice, it becomes, I think it returns us to our natural state of being. And, I always say the true litmus test is, how does it make you feel? Which is very reinforcing, which inspires you to return to that meditation or that state of being because it makes you feel so good.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Selina, thank you for that beautiful meditation. Anything else you'd like to share about that meditation to help listeners, motivate listeners? Because when we talk about, I love in the meditation, bringing in someone who is endearing or who shows you love and that heart connection that's so profound. And really loving ourselves is an issue, or this issue of unworthiness that many people feel. How can this help us with loving ourselves and feeling more worthy?
Well, because when the energy of love is activated within our system, much more so than the energy of fear, we don't have to think about being worthy or not, because love, when it's activated, is the frequency that fuels our thoughts and fuels our emotions, because the brain is seeking out the active energy in place to create the structure around of thoughts and emotions. So as we keep ourselves in a state of neutrality, in a state of peace, that's another manifestation of love. And then the brain is going to come in and it's going to create thoughts and emotions that reflect that frequency. So it's really a matter of really staying in the energy of love and moving ourselves back into that. Now, we understand that the third dimensional world comes in, and there's going to be potentially moments where we're out of that peace and that agency, and that's okay if that's what we're choosing. The idea is not to necessarily always be positive. The idea is to know that you have choice, to know how to choose the high frequency response, to activate the love within you so that you can choose at any moment to change your state when needed.
I love that. Well, Selina, we all experience loss and change, and many people are spent with grief and tragic losses, maybe the loss of a loved one, the death of a child, the loss of a career, or even retirement can, really spark changes that are not very positive for us. So how can we shift to a more positive vibration when we're spent in grief? Because grief is, a really heavy vibration. So can you shed light on that in terms of how we can shift when you're stuck and feel like there's no way out?
Yeah, for sure, because we're all conditioned to experience any loss from the state of lack. But I think the first thing to remember is that's not the only choice we have. We can experience the loss of anything in our life, no matter how profound it is, from love and from joy. And that may sound really wild or crazy to someone, but it's not, because what it entails is choosing to take that piece of loss. For instance, when I was brain injured and I had a very, I was, by the time I got to New York, just before my car event happened and I was preparing to move, I was in a very good financial place. And moving to New York, I was going to be in a better place. I didn't need to support my children anymore. They were grown up and I was in a great spot. And then a woman hit my car. I was brain injured. I had no idea as to whether I'd ever get better when it would be, what it would look like. And my savings ran out after 3 years. And so I didn't, as soon as I started to feel any type of fear, which was rare for me because of my situation at the time, I would go to remembering how grateful I was for the fact that I had had so many years of abundance. So grateful for the fact that I was living in a lovely place regardless of my situation. So we always have that opportunity. For instance, I have a student who lost a child recently, and it would be like, how do you tell someone who's lost a child to experience that through joy? That sounds cruel. That sounds painful. It's not. What she wanted to do was she wanted to honor that child. She wanted to honor that memory. So we worked together so she could go into state, into quiet, and she could visualize all of the wonderful qualities of that child, one by one, and she felt them in her body. Did she cry? Was it emotional? Absolutely. But it was emotional because she was remembering the beauty. And then she would remember moments together and things that they did. And once again, she was remembering them not through, oh my God, I don't have this, but how wonderful this was that we did have. And so her whole experience became remembering this child through all of the wonderful moments. And there were still times that she was emotional, but that emotion was from the joy of what was shared instead of what was not there. And it was a completely different experience for her. She still didn't have her child. She still missed that child at times. And when she did, she went back into this practice because the practice went from being one that soothed her because of her loss to one that reminded her of the beauty of who this child was.
That's a beautiful story. And it shows us that we can shift. We don't have to just stay stuck in grief or loss, but think about the pleasant times, the good times, the joyful times. You and I had a conversation, and you mentioned something significant, that most of the time loss is a response from lack. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, yes, and that's
what you're yearning for.
Yeah, we're conditioned to do that. That's how we're brought up. When you lose something, even as a child, going back to being kids, when we don't have the understanding that we're vibratory beings when we're kids, or we don't have the language to explain as a young child to ourselves what's happening, and something bad happens, we cry. So the emotional body, it's loss. I lost this. I dropped an ice cream cone. I wanted that ice cream cone, and it just fell on the sidewalk. So from the time we're little, we equate loss with lack. So it's once again a conscious choice to change that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much, Selina. This is so inspirational. We do invite our listeners to listen back on demand and share our show with others. Can you share with listeners how to connect with you and your free gift offering before we close out?
Sure. If people want to go to Practical Spirituality with Selina, that's SELINA.com, and they scroll down on the home page all the way to the bottom, you can sign up and get an audio recording of the practice I just took you through. And you'll get a longer version than we could have done today. And that's my free gift. So go to my website, Practical Spirituality with Selina, scroll down the home page, and you can sign up for that. And if you'd like to talk with me about one-on-one teachings or questions you might have, just email me at Selina Maitreya, MAITREYA.com.
All right. And your book again, for listeners, if you just share the title again.
Sure. It's Raise Your Frequency, Transform Your Life, How to Respond from Love to Life's Difficulties. It's on Amazon.com. We have 5-star reviews on Amazon and your favorite bookstore.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Selina, for being on the show today, sharing your insight, wisdom, and especially those tools and meditation. So we do invite listeners to tune back in on demand and share our show with others. Much gratitude to the Voice America team for making this show a reality and for shining their love light around the world. You know, it is so important for us to be present in our lives, to vibe high. And I want to leave with this excerpt on vibing high. Be present and aware of how you are being with yourself during the day. Let your entire being vibrate with love, peace, and joy. Release control and stay in the flow of life. Look through the lens of love and notice the beauty that surrounds you. Reprogram your beliefs. Take nature walks. Clear your mind with silence. Fill yourself up to send good vibes to yourself and others. Divine energy is the fuel for well-being, vitality, and abundance. Reflect the energy you wish to attract. Be grateful and choose to vibe high. We thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Dr. Jean Marie, your Love Light host, coming to you from Voice America. And until we meet again, remember, an empowered self is a loving self, and keep your love light shining. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to Love Light this week. Be sure to join Dr. Jean Marie Farish again for another program next Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and noon Eastern Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Have a wonderful week filled with love, self-worth, and better connections.